Hey guys, Crew Neil here with another podcast episode. To my left, I have my business partner, also co-owner of MTK, Edwin Lopez. And to my right, I have Martin Duarte. He's been with us just under 4 years now. We're going on 4 years, I think you said in May?
May.
May. And he's one of our fighters. Does Muay Thai, MMA, Jiu-Jitsu. We've talked about even putting him in some boxing matches as well. So he's going to be doing it all. He's one of our coaches as well. He helps us coach the Little Trunks, our little kids program. But Martin, thank you so much for coming today and spending some time with us. And can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself? You know, where you grew up. Just your background. Like what?
Yeah. Of course. So I'm first generation here. My parents are, from Latin America. So my mom's Salvadoran, my dad's Mexican, and I grew up in a very Spanish household. Being first generation, I had to learn how to be a little more American, also being a little bit of Spanish, keeping both cultures alive and just pursuing forward. But yeah, I grew up in a very rough neighborhood, East LA, San Gabriel Valley area. Always had to prove myself out in the streets, always had to survive, had to try to make it out there. Luckily I had good grandparents that always helped me and held my back. Same with my parents, as much I love them 110%, but we haven't had the best relationship. So at a very young age, my parents threw me out in the streets, and I was homeless for like about 4 months before my grandparents decided to pull me into their home and raise me. And from there, I learned how to be a better person through my grandparents.
How did you feel during that time? Because that's a crazy, right? Like that's a crazy transition from your parents are like, you're out. Yeah. You're on your own. How old were you at that time?
I was like, I just turned 15.
Wow.
Yeah.
So 15 years old, you're out on your own for 4 months, and all of a sudden your grandparents are like, you know what, Martin, enough of this. Come in with us. How did you feel at that time?
I mean, you feel very abandoned, especially when it's your family, when it's your parents, like people that you rely on, you feel like you can run for your problems for, or turn their back on you, and you realize like, wow, like I really don't have anyone. I have to face the world by myself. And as a child, you don't really know much. You're very naive. You're easily manipulated. And yeah, I got manipulated into the street life. Running with gang members, and then running, doing stupid stuff on the streets. Being an addict as well. A homeless addict, and that wasn't no fun for me. Doing that, it was just a hard time. So my grandparents, they always kept reaching out. And yes, I was in the dark hole, and I didn't want anything to do with anyone. I just felt like everybody was just against me. So luckily, my grandfather didn't stop. He continued pushing, would come and see me where I was at, and eventually just grabbed me, and he was like, come on, we got to do something. We got to change you. We got to help you be a better person. You got to understand that not everyone in your family has that type of heart. Me and your grandma, we love you and we want to see the best for you. So they brought me under their wing. And then after that, I started working, and I realized I need to start doing something for them, because they're willing to sacrifice their time for me to help raise me. So yeah, once I started doing that, then I was like, okay, well, I need to see what I can do to provide. Working in a warehouse, doing 10-hour shifts, and then working at a pizza shop for a little while. And then from there, one of my buddies that I met through mutual friends invited me to be a dog groomer.
Wow.
Got stuck grooming dogs for like about 14 years.
Wow.
And then I stopped because I realized, well, I love dogs. I love cutting hair and all that. It was a thing of mine. But I was like, this isn't me. This isn't my fit. I'm an athlete. I've always been an athlete. In high school, I did wrestling. I did boxing. So I was just like, I'm an athlete. I got to do something with myself.
You said you did wrestling. You said you did boxing. What brought you to Muay Thai? Like, you could have just went back to boxing, right? You could have focused solely on boxing. You could have focused solely on wrestling. What drew you to Muay Thai?
Well, it's funny because I always drove down the street.
Really?
I always drive down the street. Even when I was doing mobile dog grooming, I was always driving around, and then I'd pass by here to a couple clients. And then obviously I live not that far from this gym. And I was on the way home from work, I'd drive by, and then it was a good year before I even decided to step in.
Really?
And I was just like, look at that place. And I remember before it said tax refund and then plus Muay Thai. And I was like, I was like, well, which one is it? Is it tax refund place or is it Muay Thai place? And then it said kickboxing. I was like, I didn't know what Muay Thai was. I knew what kickboxing was. And I was like, well, I got to see what's up, you know? And then that's when I met you. I stepped in that first day and I met you. But once I got in there, I was just started training. I was like, all right, this is a route for me. I know how to do hands. I know how to take people down, but I don't know how to kick anybody, knee anybody, or elbow anyone. So once I learned that's what Muay Thai was, I was like, all right, I can dig it. Let's go. Let's go. Let's
I
go.
love that.
Yeah, yeah,
Love
yeah.
What would you say is like your biggest obstacle? Because you know, if you guys don't know, you know, this guy comes literally every day. He's spending hours at a time here. This was even before he became a trainer and before he became a fighter. Back then, you know, because you're a family man too. How many kids do you have?
I got 4 kids.
4 kids.
My oldest is my daughter. She's 18. And then I got Aiden, and he just turned 12. And then I got Mason, who's 7 years old, who's actually in the kids program right now, going coaching. And then I got my youngest son, who's 4 years old. He's gonna be 5. Yeah.
So a father of 4. What were some of the obstacles you had there? Because you were here 6 days a week. You'd come in at 5 a.m. You always made it a priority to always stop in and train. What were some of these obstacles you might have dealt with?
Well, I don't
still deal with.
I mean, I obviously with my spouse, it was a kind of a little bit of an issue, just because she saw how passionate I was about Muay Thai and how passionate I was about being here and really grinding out and you know, trying to make it my lifestyle. And she realized, like, well, what do you love, Muay Thai more than me or what? And it's like, it's not that. It's just, you know, I told her I'm working on my self growth. I'm working on who I want to be. I'm realizing who I am as a person and as an athlete, and just reaching for the stars and wanting to see what I can do with it. That was obviously before I even thought about competing and all that stuff. And it was just like, you know, what do I really want to do? And she has just challenged me every time with anything. It's like, well, you're there at 5 a.m., then you're there at night. Isn't just one time enough? And I was like, no, well, you know, in my head, once I told her I want to compete, she was like, well, why? You're old. I'm like, I'm in my, you know, early 30s around that time, but I was like, you know, when I talked to you about it, you were just like, age doesn't matter. Your athleticism is key.
That's right.
And, you know, and then once you put that on me, I was just like, okay, there's no stopping me now. I'm reaching for the stars, you know?
No, what triggered that though, right? You started out just wanting to challenge yourself and pick up this art that you're really intrigued by. What point did you hit where you're like, man, I want to fight? Because not everyone wants to fight. It takes a special person to want. What was that trigger point that caused you to switch?
What caused me to switch was obviously you saw what I went through with my grandfather.
Yes.
You know, my grandfather was the guy that pulled me out of the streets and helped me get better. You know, he got in a really horrible accident. He was drunk, didn't want to drop his guitar, was going up steps, fell, broke his back in 2 spots, broke his neck. And, you know, I was his main caretaker. My grandmother couldn't really do much. My grandmother's an older woman. She can't really, you know, fend for someone that is a heavier set, you know, so I was doing a lot for him. And around that time, I ended up having to make one of the most hardest decisions in my life, which was having to decide whether or not my grandfather was going to live. You know, and at that moment in time, you know, I went through a dark spot then, and I realized, like, I don't want to be there. I don't want to sink. And remember when I called you, I was like, I'm about to relapse, man, or I'm about to do something stupid out here. Like, I need to do something. And the first thing you were like, come in the gym. Come on. Come work. You know, and I was just like, all right. Started working, and even though I felt broken and felt that pain, I still came and I still trained and I still worked hard as I could. And to be honest, I compete because I want to feel pain. You know,
that's deep.
I want to feel pain because it's a pain that lives in my heart every day, and I can't, you know, go past it. So the only way I know is by smashing my fist in someone else's face or someone's fist smashing mine, so I can feel better. So I can fight the demon that I fight every day. You know, and it's a hard demon that I fight every day, but I do it because I know that, you know, my grandfather wouldn't want me to give it up. He was there when I first started, and he was proud of me. And And I want to continue being that person, you know, to show that I can be a champion. I told him I'm gonna be a champion. No matter whether it's kickboxing, Muay Thai, MMA, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna be a champion somewhere, but I'm gonna be a champion.
I love that.
You know
what, man, you got our emotions going.
Yeah.
But I'm proud of you. And what would you say to someone who maybe recently lost someone that is going through those same emotions that you fight with every day, but you made those changes, you kept coming.
Yeah.
Well, what would you say to someone like that right now that could be in that dark spot right now that doesn't have someone to pull them out of it?
Right.
Would you have any words that you could say to someone like that?
Think about that person and what they would want for you and how you can make them proud. It doesn't matter of anyone else. Think about that person in general, what you would want to do to them and prove for them that you're able to continue and push in life, whether it gets really hard in the dark hole. Like, it doesn't matter, you know. And then, to be honest, this gym is what lifts me. I come and coach. I tell people, I don't preach them, but I give them my feeling to support them, to help them, to show them that we all fight through this. We all go through a hole. We're all in there. But the best part of NTK is that we're all holding each other's hand and helping each other lift each other out of that hole so we don't sink all the way down. Whether if we're at our chin, it's okay. It don't matter. We're still there. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people in here that fight demons every day. Just know that you're not alone.
Yeah.
You're not alone. There's always somebody, whether it's a relative or not, or a friend, there's someone there. There's someone there.
It's amazing. I wanted to ask you, Neil, really quick, like, I know with every different fighter that you've had, there's comes a point where you decide like they're ready to fight. How many years before was Martin training, and what turning point was there when you knew that he was ready to fight?
It was that's a great question. I mean, literally, he trained for 2.5 years, literally straight, 6 days a week, sometimes 7. He would come take a class in the morning, go grind and do his work, and he'd come back for another class because when that switch hit where he was like, "Crew, I want to fight, but I don't want to fight until you say that I'm ready to fight. So I'm just gonna show you that I'm here to work, and whenever you feel that I'm ready, give me the green light, but I am ready. I want to do this." And I said, okay. And day in and day out, I would watch him. I'd watch Martin come in and just push and push and push. And, I always say he's got such a big heart. But he's also intelligent too. You know what I mean? And he just knows when he sets his goal, he won't stop until he gets there. And I really love that about him. You can't teach that in a fighter, right? Some fighters can have the best technique in the world, but if they don't have a heart and they don't have a good, strong mind, they're not going to be successful. And that's one thing I love about Martin is that no matter he gets knocked down, he takes a loss, whatever it is, he picks himself back up and he gets back on that horse and he keeps grinding. And when I saw that in him, 2.5 years, I remember we had a talk. He was like, Cuneo, he was like, I just want you to know, like, I will still wait for the green light from you, but like, I just want you to know, like, I am ready mentally, like physically, like, I want to do this. Like, so please, like, let me know. And I said, with him coming up to me and telling me that, I knew it's time. I gotta give him this green light now because he's ready. Because it takes a lot for a student to come to his teacher after 2.5 years, you know what I mean, to like have that courage, like to come and present that like to me. There was a risk of me saying, no, you're not ready. That it took a lot for him to come up to me, and that showed me he's ready. He wants it. So I knew, okay, this is the time now.
Got it.
Yeah, but it changes for every person, every individual,
I just want to tell you, Martin, that I thank you, and I didn't know your whole story about your grandfather and your why and everything. And I think between him passing away and then my mom passing away 2 years, and then like me and Neil were in partnership, and I know Neil's father just passed away not too long ago, that we feel that support, you know what I mean? Even if when we don't know people's story in here, when you can just tell from the energy when you want to push somebody, even though you don't know, it feels like when you're here in the environment and everything, like you have that support, because it's hard, man, when you lose somebody. But like you said, like when you find that why and you turn it around and say, I'm gonna do this or I'm gonna win this because I want to leave a legacy or I want to make such and such proud, whether they're here with us or they're not, it's huge because it's like you said, we're all fighting battles and every day we need some type of inspiration, some type of why we continue to do what we do. So I just wanted to thank you for sharing that story.
Thank you, man.
You know,
Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. I always say, right? We always say, like, if we can touch one person with that story, that's already worth it. Would
Right.
you agree?
I agree. I
Right,
totally
because
agree.
there's so many people out there. I mean, we've all lost loved ones recently. I
Yeah.
mean, and there's millions of people out there that have just probably recently lost one and could be going through a crazy dark place right now. And I think
Absolutely.
hearing your story, that man, you could come out of that. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Surround yourself with a community of people that can help pull you out of that sand, out of that mud every day. You know, instead of dropping back into that hole. I think it's epic.
Yeah, definitely.
It really is. Would you say that is something that always keeps you coming back to MTK? Because you know, there's many gyms out there. There's a lot of great, talented gyms out there, but you still continue to be with us. You still continue to be here every day.
Yeah.
You know, what would be your reasons for like why you come back?
Well, I mean, that's definitely one main reason is just the community, the family-based community that we have that, you have built here with all of us. That's one reason. But also like, I grew up in like being loyal.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Being loyal to my teacher. You know what I mean? I also grew up obviously on those old kung fu movies, you
Yeah.
got the Bruce Lees, all that stuff, Jean-Claude Van Damme movies and stuff, and it shows how they're so loyal to their teacher. I feel like that's a big importance in martial arts, from us being so Americanized here in Western civilization, we're very selfish when it comes to that way, and in martial arts, I realize it's more from the Eastern culture. You want to pick that culture up and be loyal to your teacher. And that's how I feel with you guys, like with you, I'm 100% loyal. You see when we bow in, everybody does your basic bow. I drop all the way down. I go on all fours. I bow my head all the way down to the mat and show my full loyalty to you. Just so people know, like, I don't just hop around. Yes, I may train with other people just to pick up, some new stuff, but it's always with you. I always land right here. It's never anybody talks anything bad about you and steps out of line with you and you're not around to defend it, I'm going to defend you. That's just how it is because that's how I live by. I live by a warrior code. I don't switch for no one. It doesn't matter.
I love that. I love that you touch base on that because that is right. We see that a lot today where people do hop around and like you said, it's kind of like a selfish thing. It's about me. It's about me. But people forget, like in the Thai culture, in Muay Thai traditions, you have one teacher. That's it, and that's your teacher for life. And, to relate to you, Crew X was my only teacher. Never. And a lot of people don't know we didn't have the best dynamic either. Like at home, we did not get along personally. A lot of people don't know that. Right. But in the fight game, I was 100%. Whatever you tell me to do, correct, I'm gonna give you 100% effort. If I can give you more, I'll give you more. Right. So I totally agree with you on that loyalty part because that's the Thai culture. That's what Muay Thai is traditionally about. Absolutely. Right. So I love that, Martin. Not many fighters talk about that, presently in present day. Yeah.
I mean, it also brings up, like, obviously you got like the mainstream stuff like the UFC that shows stuff like, all this single-based independent character, but in reality, it's like that character wasn't created alone. It was created by a team that was behind them that you see cornering in the side, and that's the way that person became who they are, and I feel like, that's one thing that people need to come to realize now. If you can't take an L and realize you messed up and accept that and adapt and become better through your teacher, then you're not doing it right. If you blame your teacher and you want to go somewhere else, then you're just weak. That to me is a weak mindset.
I love that.
Do you guys think that comes from? Do you think that has a lot to do with the way you were raised and your parents and, that aspect of what it taught you? Because it has to come from somewhere, right? Or do you think this generation just see what they see on social media and then that's what they become? Because I agree with Martina. I grew up old school, like loyal, you know what I mean? Shaking somebody's hand, obviously, with everything now it's a contract, it's this, it's that. But I'm old school. If you tell me, hey, I'm going to do this and I'm going to hold you up to it, you know what I mean? And so do you guys think that it's something that it's a dying dying teaching breed, whatever it is, that it came from our parents and generations in that aspect. And then, we're trying to pass it on to our children. I know you're a father, I'm a father, and we teach them the loyalty is everything, you know what I mean? But nowadays most people don't care about a handshake, you know what I mean? They don't stand up to it.
I know personally, definitely came from parenting. My dad was, in the English army, and my mom comes from the Thai culture. So it was instilled for me from day one as a baby, and so it just made it easier for me to live my life. I think me and Martin, we're both coaches, and we both teach all different types of people that come from all different walks of life. And you see the certain children that lack that ability, and we always see it's through the parenting. We see it all the time.
Right. I believe it's that too. Like I said, my grandfather was a very generous person. He would help out anyone, and people stayed so loyal to him, no matter what. And I realized it was because, he kept to a word. He kept to his word. He kept to a code, and it was never disregard or anything towards anyone. Nothing weird. It was always a good, respectable atmosphere. And I feel like that's something that people need to learn again. I feel like it is a dying breed. It is a dying breed. It's going away, and the further generations is getting worse. Nobody understands that. You know what I mean?
And how is it that you do it? Because we're loyal people, right? In the sense that, like, we love to trust people, we love to give people the opportunity to be around us, to be in our presence, and vice versa. But there's people that are gonna burn you, people are gonna backstab you and all that. How do you overcome that? So, like, when somebody does you dirty, how do you not let the next person who comes into your life pay for that?
I'm very I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I mean, even my spouse is like, you're too easily like, oh, they're cool. I'm like, yeah, they're cool until they give me a reason not to be cool. Then once you give me that reason not to be cool, then and then especially if it affects like my surroundings, my people, my surrounding. If you're not cool with them and you're cool with me, then there's something wrong there. You gotta be cool with my surrounding too. You know what I mean? You have to be able to adapt to my people, my village, my tribe. And if you can't, then go ahead.
You just those people.
I do, but it's still respect them. If I see them out in public, I'm saying, hey, how you doing? You been all right? All right, cool. But it's never like, hey, you want to come over? No, you know what I mean? It's still, I'm an arm's distance. All right, have a good day. Enjoy, but it's still respect. Because regardless, matter of fact, no matter what it is, I'm not going to go out of my way to harm you or to cause any type of bad karma. I don't care. I'm just going to come and kick you in the ass. I'm good. I'll step back and I'll just enjoy the show from behind. You know what I mean? So that's how I see it. But I definitely give everybody the benefit of the doubt.
That's awesome. I love that.
And one thing I like to ask too, when you look back at everything you've gone through, Martin, do you ever look back and think like, man, if I would have just had Muay Thai in my life sooner, I could have avoided this or I could have avoided that? Do you ever think that way or feel that way?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like it would have been a whole other world for me. I feel like I would have gone down a better path, just because my competitive edge is there, but at the same time, I think about it and I'm like, well, my mindset then to my mindset now is way different. My mindset then, I was still kind of very naive and ignorant. I didn't really care. I didn't have this type of a core value that I have now. So I feel like it would have been good and I would have been a part of it, but still would have been kind of crazy. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Like my wild side would have still been there. I wasn't mature at that level yet. And at that point, I didn't have my grandfather and my grandmother by my side to teach me more of those moral values. You know what I'm saying? So, but I think it landed at the right time.
I love that.
It landed at the right time.
I truly believe that too. I truly believe that the universe provides everything we're supposed to get when it's that right time, right? You have the right mindset, like everything's just in alignment. Now you're ready to have it.
Yeah.
Right? And I always tell my students, I've told you the same, don't regret anything you've done in the past. You know what I mean? Because I always tell people, don't regret you didn't train Muay Thai sooner, because you might have not had the right mindset for it back then. But now you're training Muay Thai because you have the right mindset for it. And they're like, oh, I never thought of it like that. Yeah. And everything you went through in the past brought you to how you are today as a man and, how you carry yourself. All those experiences taught you something, and I just wanted to touch base too, because remember you had mentioned it, you had people doubting like, oh, you're old. Let's touch base on that, because that is a stigma, right? As men, as an athlete who wants to fight but's never fought before, what would you say to someone right now that you've learned through your journey with us? What would you say to that guy or that lady that wants to compete but feels like, you know what, I'm 32, you know, I'm old, I don't think I can fight anymore. What kind of message would you share to that individual?
Don't look at the number. Don't think about the number. It's all in here. If you get it, like they say, if you think old, you're gonna be old.
Love it.
If you think young, you're gonna be young.
Love it.
You know, and like if you're, as long as you're exercising, you're doing what you need to do, you're dieting, you're building your cardio, whatever the case may be. As long as you're keeping maintenance, you're capable of doing anything. And the mindset and the heart is where it takes you to be where you need to be. Like I've told you before, one of my favorite fighters in the UFC is Glover. Why? Dude's like in his mid-40s and he became a champion at like 41.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like there's no stopping you.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing stopping you is yourself. If you let your mindset stop you and say, I'm old, and I'm going to break down, I'm old, then you're going to be old and you're going to fall apart. That's why, like, when most people, when they retire, what ends up happening, they pass away.
Yeah.
Why? Because they stop moving, they stop working, they stop pushing, and they let the machine break down little by little. But if you can keep that consistent machine moving, anything's possible.
I love
Your
that.
age don't matter.
I love that.
Yeah, that's how I see it. Yeah, definitely.
Yes. That's great. Because there's a lot of people that, you know, we hear it in the gym, right? Oh, I'm too old for that. No,
Yeah.
you're not. You know, they feel like they're not strong enough anymore. Well, I challenge them, right? Like, well, how do you make yourself stronger? By constantly doing it. Do it more.
Right.
And you're only going to get stronger. I love that, Martin. I think people need to be reminded of that more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, age is just nothing but a number. It's all in your mind. If you think you're old, you're old. If you think you're young, you're young. If you feel like you can do it, you can do it. I always tell people, you know, I had one champion. He became a 3-time amateur champion with me. He started at 38 years old, you know, and by 40, 41, he was a 3-time amateur champ. You know, and I use that as a like a big inspiration tool for anyone that is doubting their age. I'm like, no, you're fine.
Yeah.
You know, so I love that you touched base on that. Martin, you did mention maintenance, because that's one thing a lot of people don't. They just think train hard, train hard, train hard. But what are some of the things that you do for maintenance? Like, do you do massages? Like, what do you do to maintain your body?
Massages is one. Getting adjusted is another. I just recently started getting into acupuncture and getting cupping done. It's changed my recovery a lot. Same with like doing ice baths. It's a big difference. It changes a lot of stuff. I feel a lot better. I feel more alert. I feel like I can do a lot more when I do those types of things. And then also doing the Epsom salt baths, recovery on, you know, any type of inflammation, stuff like that. You got to really read up on what you need to do to become, you know, your full potential. Supplements is another one. You got to make sure you got the proper vitamins, you're taking the proper amount of protein, you're, you know, everything from hydration, all that stuff comes into play. If you're not researching that much more to see how much more you can better your body so you can perform at the top elite levels, then you're not doing it right. But I feel like everyone needs to research that. And not only that, also, like I've talked to a lot of people in class, they're like, well, I want to be this body type. Well, you need to realize there's only certain body types, you know, and you got to know which body type you are, right? You got mesomorphs, ectomorphs, and optomorphs, right? You got guys that are a little more bigger, but they can build a nice big shoulders and bigger legs, but they can't really lose all this core. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that they can't move fast and can't actually be technical and be very, very athletic, right? They still can, right? So you got, what's his name? DC from UFC. Guy doesn't have a six-pack, but dude's like arms are yoked, his legs are yoked, and the guy can take people down and smash them. He's a champion. And then you got people like yourself, more of the leaner cut, you know what I mean? And then you got people like Edwin and I, we're more of the mesomorph build, you know, we're able to get like athletically built. We look like, you know, Greek statues if we really wanted to, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, but
I like that.
you need a, there you go. I don't know where it is in order to be able to attack your potential. So if you research those types of body types and see which one you're at, and then actually research like what you need to do to get to those points, then you'll have success. Otherwise, if not, then you're gonna sit there and be like, well, I'm not seeing no difference. I'm plateauing. I don't see growth. I don't see it. Well, what are you eating? What are you taking? What are you drinking? Da, da, da. You know, all those things play a big factor. How are you recovering? All this and that. You know, we see it all the time.
Yeah.
Well, I don't see a change. Well, what are you doing different?
Yeah.
Have you tried this? Have you tried this? Oh, that makes a difference. Even the way you lift weights, the repetition, all that stuff, the way you're lifting, it's way different. All those things make a big difference. You got to read, you got to learn. If you can't just expect it's just going to happen. Boom, my body's going to change. No.
Do you have any recommendations? Because I know you've mentioned research a lot. Do you recommend any sources that people that are listening right now could help them research whatever topic they want? You know, whether it's body type, supplements, recovery. Do you have any research tools or platforms that you could recommend?
I mean, you know, I'm always looking, depending on what I'm doing. So, like for example, I always look at how to weightlift for jiu-jitsu, how to weightlift as being a striker. You know, what type of workouts help me with that. Also, just not only those types of things too, is just your agility workouts. You gotta research those types of things to build fast reflexes, explosiveness and stuff. But you have everything at your fingertips. There's no excuse, to be honest. You can Google all the stuff you want. You can also, Instagram has a butt ton of stuff that you can go over. And obviously you got to watch out for those scammers. But at the same time, you got to make sure all these people have credentials that you can follow. You know, making sure that everything's legit. So, but yeah, other than that, I mean, staying lean, you introduced me to, you know, food wise, you introduced me to every table. I've been touching on that. And, you know, making sure my diet's being okay, you know, which I'm saying okay. Every once in a while, you got to have a little bit of fun, right?
Absolutely. I wanted to end it with this. If you had someone listening right now that maybe is at the gym, right at our gym right now, or maybe another gym, and they just feel like this is not for them, you know, MTK is not really for me. I'm kind of intimidated. I don't know. What would you say to inspire them or, you know, to uplift them?
Comfort's a killer. Comfort's a killer. Spiritually, mentally, physically. If you don't push yourself out of your comfort zone, you won't know what you're capable of. You won't know where exactly you can go and how far you can push yourself mentally and physically. You won't know until you get out of that comfort zone. Comfort zone is so basic. You don't want to be labeled as basic. I don't.
That's right.
I want to be labeled as the hardest worker in that room every day. Yes. You know, so I don't want to be that basic guy. Let me push harder every time. I did 10 reps. All right, I'm gonna do 15. All right, I'm gonna do 20. All right, every time do at least a couple more. You know, and if you're thinking about quitting, then did you really believe in yourself? That's how I see it. Because what it first starts off is with believing in yourself. And if you can't come out believing in yourself, then you're really you're killing yourself off. And that's not good. You should have more belief in yourself than anyone else. More than any of your loved ones, more than anybody else, you should believe in yourself more. You should tell yourself that you love yourself. You should tell yourself that you're better. You should tell yourself that you deserve a lot more every day in the mirror. It might seem crazy. People might look at, what the heck is he doing talking to himself? But it's real. We need to do that. We need to take the time, take acknowledgement. I can do better. I can be better. What is my potential? I don't know, but I'm going to reach for it. Let me go for that. Let me see where I can reach. You know what I mean? It's nonstop. Always have to do that. Yeah.
I love that. Man, I love that. That was amazing.
Let me tell you something. Tonight, I'm a Greek god. Let me say it. Greek god, let's work out. Let's hit this because thank you, Martin. I never hear that. So
you got to. You got to. You know, I look at it that way. Like if you're not looking at yourself as something great, better than yourself, then you're not doing it right. You got to. You got to.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I'm learning off of you business wise. I'm learning off of crew as a teacher. You know, like just being a martial artist. It's like, what more can I do? I'm always looking about what more can I do, crew? What can I do to put these people through hell to make sure that they get a good workout in now? You know, I always do it all the time.
Absolutely. But Martin, thank you so much for spending some time with us and hanging out with us today. I know your story. I know your information is definitely going to help someone out there for sure that's listening right now. So guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of our podcast, Muay Thai Save Me. Guys, you can subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to do it. Okay, click that subscribe button right there and click on that link and stay tuned for next week's episode, guys.